So I am so excited to bring you this video. Why? Because one thing that I love is wearing makeup, even though I don't have on any now because that's the type of video it is. But one thing that I love probably just as much as wearing makeup is organizing, and specifically organizing my makeup collection and always like advancing it and finding the best ways for everything to be practical and at my reach and all that stuff. I love it. So I decided to start this series. It's my makeup organizational series because I have talked about like how I store my makeup and like in passing here and there. I've like done reviews on like my acrylic organizers. I've done makeup collection videos so you can kind of see how I store my makeup. But I wanted to go in depth like from an organizer's perspective and like why I store things the way I store things. I know, and I'm pretty sure a video like this could help someone. It definitely could have helped me when I was looking for stuff like this. Yeah, I really enjoy organizing. I actually created an entire subreddit on Reddit called Makeup Organization for this specific purpose. I'll link it down below. So you guys can go check it out. Like, I love it. Because I think in order to have a big collection and utilize it, whether you're on YouTube or not, you need to have everything organized, see where everything is or know where everything is, know what you have so you can utilize it to the best of your ability. Like, yeah. I'm an organized person in life. My closet tends to be organized, like things like that, my desk, but this is definitely the most like in-depth, like seriously specifically organized. Yeah, so I'm gonna do a series. I have on my paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos for sure of topics, and so let me know, send me your suggestions of what product or where you want me to break down next. So yeah, so what this is again is like going in depth into why I store things the way I store them. And the reason why I think this will help people is because, yeah, you can put all your blush in one drawer, but there's a way to organize them where you can utilize the space better, things like that. I really, really enjoy stuff like that. And so this video is going to be about my single eyeshadows, specifically the magnetic ones that go into palettes, okay? There will be another, like, part 2 to the single eyeshadow video where it will be my single eyeshadows that I don't depot, that aren't magnetic, they're just individual singles, how I store those. I have a lot of single eyeshadows, and this video is already going to be long as it is. Okay, whew, we finished everything that my intro. I think that's it as far as like the intro. So there are different ways that I break down how to store things. And with single eyeshadows, first off, I'm a big fan of magnetic palettes. That's why I own a lot of magnetic eyeshadows. So I discovered Z palette at my very first IMAX about 5 years ago. And these are just empty magnetic palettes with a clear opening. And you can pop your magnetic shades in. Now, if you are unfamiliar with magnetic shades, I'm speaking of singles that don't come with any like extra packaging and they're meant for you to put in a palette. Usually get to a makeup artist, but now it's become mainstream with everyone. MAC, Anastasia Beverly Hills, Coastal Scents. These shadows tend to be a little bit cheaper because they're cutting on packaging and you just put them in a palette. You can customize palettes. It's a really great thing to start looking into if you don't own any single shadows. So yeah, Z palette I have discovered. I have some other brands, like this is a double one from Adept Cosmetics. We're going to get into that. Morphe has a really nice magnetic palette that I get from IMAX. These are about the size of an extra large Z palette. However, these are about $12 and the Z palettes are like $40 for the extra large. What else? We have some small like Coastal Scents ones and Morphe ones like with 12 that have designated slots. Clear ones. And I also like to make my own magnetic palettes. I have made a really, really large magnetic palette. I'll link that video down below as well. Made a really, really large one that holds all my Coastal Scent shadows. I've made smaller ones just by gluing magnetic sheets and different things. So, yeah. Okay, so how I store my magnetic shadows, the number one first breakdown in this tier of organization is by brand. I don't sort everything in my collection by brand, but I sort my single shadows to the best of my ability by brand if space allows it. The reason why I do this is because this is strictly for video purposes and inventory purposes, because for example, my Coastal Scents Hot Pots, it makes sense to have all of those in one place together. I have about 200 of them. It makes sense to have them all together. A lot of other brands, I might have 10 or so. I put them all together because this palette, now it's a palette of just that brand, if that makes sense. It's not a mishmash of shades. Also, when I'm doing like a tutorial or something, I can just grab this palette and say, okay, these are curated shadows. So now I'm just focusing on the name of the shadows versus if this was a mishmash of brands, I have to remember the brand and the name of the shadow when I'm talking to you, when I'm writing it out later. I just think that's better to sort them by brand. Now, with that being said, I will put another 2 brands together, multiple brands together. If I own like 1 or 2 of those shades, it's not really, this is for like if I have a lot of them, which when I find a brand I like, I get a lot of them. Like I stock up on them. So that's number 1. Number 2, I always sort necessarily by within that palette. I like to sort by color, like the range. I kind of follow the rainbow, and this doesn't always work. But when I have a lot, for example, Coastal Scents, I always do some sort of cohesive color organization because I can quickly look at that and see, all right, I might be missing greens, or I might be missing blues, or I don't have such and such, or I just do that. Now, smaller, again, if I don't have that many of them, it can be a little bit more sporadic, but if I have a lot of something, I tend to give it a little bit cohesive pattern. Also, back to why I sort by brand is for when I'm purchasing more, or when I, like, for example, Coastal Scents has these sales, these lovely sales on, Hot Pots all the time. I literally take a picture of all they have. I might flip them over and do the name. In the sake of Coastal Scents, I have them all written down. But if they're all in one spot, I can easily glance and see versus trying to search for all of them. For example, with eye mats, there's a couple brands that will be in eye mats, and I literally opened it up, took a picture of the palette, or flipped the pans over, took a picture of the names, and now I know when I'm going to shop, I don't buy duplicates. It's just an easy way to keep that together. So I'm going to go through and show you. And there are some honorary mentions of different things. And I'll show you everything. The third layer of organization is by type. Meaning, like, sometimes I put the mattes together. Sometimes I put the shimmers together within a palette. That, again, that's not as important as the top tier. Also, I will separate different types. For example, I separate anything that I have pressed myself into its own palette. For example, if it was a loose shadow or pigment or glitter, and I have pressed it myself, I put it in its own pan. Why? 1, they're similar. But 2, pressed eyeshadows are not as tightly pressed as, let's say, a machine pressed eyeshadow, and so they're more likely to get loose, to get broken, they're more likely to go everywhere, and I don't want to ruin all the other shadows if that happens. I press my own glitters, and I have all those in their own palette, and it's a really pretty palette. Again, if I press like a MAC pigment, I press it, I don't put it with the other, like, regular MAC shadows. I don't know, put it in its own palette, hand-pressed items. There are some, for example, like Inglot, some brands that sell, like this. These are the only ones that I have, Inglot, that sell like its own palette with its own thing. They go together. Melt makes these pretty magnetic stacks. That's its own thing, but they're in the drawer with all my other magnetic palette shadows, but these don't get their own palette. They just go in as that. So I'm going to break down my palettes and show you what I have and how I just have them organized. Let's go. Okay, you guys. So going into the honorable mentions again. Again, these are like my Inglot palettes. I really like these palettes. But they're really only customizable to fit the Inglot shades. Now, an Inglot single will fit in a Z palette. It will magnetize in there. However, squares and circles in the same palette would really bother me. So I just keep these separate by themselves. As well as the MAC. The melt stacks, they don't need to sit in a palette. They would magnetize in there, but what's the point? They already are really nice and compact. Also, like I mentioned before, the individual, like pressed things that I own, I press them. I put them in their own palettes. This is an Anastasia palette. And these are some pressed glitters that I have. An overflow from this palette that I have of pressed glitters. And look how pretty are those. So I always keep those separately. Okay. These are MAC. These are the only MAC shadows that I own. Pressed, like, bought from the MAC store. I did a one brand tutorial with MAC, and I had to buy some shadows. And those are the ones I own. So And they go in that palette, and yeah. So this is the last like special thing. These are all shadows that I have pressed, minus these four. These four just happen to fit in here. So they're, oh my gosh, a brand from Sally's Beauty and a Color Pop. Like, they're just really random. And this was a palette that had some more room. I'm not gonna start a whole new big palette for those four random shades. But these are my Harry Potter shadows from, oh my god, what's that brand? Shira Cosmetics. And then these are some pressed matte pigments. And so that's there. And they're not a rhyme or reason as far as like color or anything in there. So as you can see, again, I'm not that anal about that. It's more of the brand situation, brand organization. Okay. So then I have a couple of Z palettes here. These are all my curated shadows, and they all happen to be neutrals. So this is a really nice, just neutral palette. All of these shadows are curated. This one is, God help me with these nails. One thing I can't do. New Moon. I'm not sure. If you guys know the brand of this one, I forgot. Let me know. And I didn't remember what it was, so I just sat it just randomly to the side in a palette. But anyway, all of these are curated shadows. And so I purchased these at IMAX 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and they were about $2 a piece. Yeah, they were $2 a piece, and this is all the shades that they had at the show. I was like, for $2, I want to try these. My sister loves them. Picked them up, and they're enough to make their own palette. So that's pretty cool. Not wasting a lot of space here. So there you go with that one. And then I have another Z palette, and these are all Morphe individual shadows. So these are all Morphe single shadows. I haven't purchased any Morphe single shadows in a few years because I really got into their palettes and their pressed pigments. So yeah, maybe at the show they might introduce some new shades. I really like their pressed pigments though, so that's where my focus went. But these are all Morphe single shadows. So those are, see, some of them I have dropped. Like, I've had these for years, but they're still hanging in there. So those are the Morphe single shadows. Again, I have a situation of light to dark. That random green might bother you guys, I'm sorry. But then like blues to purple, and we have some darker shades down here. Just some sort of order, so at a quick glance, my eyes can really understand what I'm looking at a lot faster. Alright, and then this palette is sorted. This is an Adept Cosmetics palette. This is a double-sided palette. This was $35 on Amazon. I know Adept Cosmetics has a lot of larger palettes now. Oh my gosh, they sell like on their site like maybe like a blemished palette for really cheap. They do a really good job of that, and they have a lot of magnetic palettes, but I got mine from Amazon. And this is a double-sided magnetic palette, and this palette holds all of my larger pans, because some brands, which I can appreciate, will give you a larger pan than the standard 26mm, and so I decided to put all these together, which is actually really cool. So these are larger, and if you can't tell from camera, I'll show you. This is a standard 26mm here, and these are the larger pans. So makes a difference. So with these, obviously they're taking up more room in your magnetic palette. So you want a larger palette, or you're going to be using a lot of smaller palettes, and yeah, you want a little bit more real estate. So I have two of these, and these work perfectly for this. So these on this side are all my Stilazzi shadows. I have all the mattes at the top, and then I have all the other finishes here. These are all my Stilazzi shadows. And again, I get those from IMAX at the Friends booth. Here is one single Sugar Pill. It's the only Sugar Pill shadow I own, and it's in Love Plus. Sugar Pill has these same size pans, so it goes in here as well. It works. And I kind of separated things with some room, as you can see. There is a clear divider on this palette, which keeps everything from getting messy, which I can appreciate. Alright, and then, oops, sorry you guys. And then here, at the top here, this brand, I'm going to flip one over so you might can identify it. I know I got them from IMAX, but I cannot remember the booth. It definitely was a random booth. Here is what the back looks like, and I have no idea what the brand is. I have no idea. I don't know. And yeah, so I have those there, and they're here right here. And then if you go here, these 5 are actually the Coastal Scents Hot Pot blushes. I did a review on these and I really didn't like them as blushes. I picked out the 3 that I did enjoy as blushes, but all of these will be used as just eyeshadow, because yeah, the colors are too light and ashy for me on my cheeks. So that's that. And then down here, these 6 are all my Juvia's Place singles. And so they all are this big size, so I think they look nice in this one palette, but I do have them separated by brand because it's only like 6 and 5. I would be using a lot of other palettes or a lot of smaller Z palettes if I really separated these by all brands get their own palette. It's just, you know, we also have to be, what's that word? Efficient with how we store our stuff. And that's how I store the larger ones. Yeah, in this palette here. Now, on to the big mama, my Coastal Scents palettes, my Coastal Scents Hot Pots. So I own about 200 Coastal Scents Hot Pots. And that's a lot. That's a lot of Z palettes. You got to remember the biggest Z palette, the biggest magnetic palette that I own, Z palette, holds about 40 or 35 eyeshadows. Okay, and then you have, I did make a large palette. I made a large DIY palette a while ago, and it holds maybe like 55 or so shadows. So okay, I still would need 4 of those. And then with the Adept Cosmetic, that blue palette I just showed you, they hold 96. I would still need 2, at least 2, and they're already filled, and they're $35 a piece. And I was already on the 3rd one. I'm like, okay, we can't. I gotta find another way. So again, I'll link this video down below. I DIY'd this large magnetic palette out of a book. And currently, I have 2 of them made. I have a lot in stock over here. But I have 2 of them made to hold my Coastal Scents Hot Pots. And this one with I put my logo on it. Well, not really my logo, but y'all know. On this, I thought it looked cute. And so this is how I house all my Coastal Scents Hot Pots. Now I have some in another one. This is an overflow. But this is the first one full. Alright, let's calm down. Okay? And you can see, I'm going to put back the camera up a little bit. So I hold 154 in here. 154, 157 in here. And this is, again, all the Coastal Scents Hot Spots. These are coordinated by color, as you can see. Lights to darks, pinks, yellows, blues, purples, greens, berries and burgundies and coppers. We have some neutral shades down there. Let me get the other one, because here's the overflow. Well, or whatever you want to call it. This one I have started, and are neutrals and browns, blacks, grays, charcoals, like that. And this is the best way I've found. No, this palette is not ideal for traveling. I don't really travel with these Coastal Scents Hot Pots because it's, yeah, this big, huge thing. However, these are magnetic palettes. You get yourself a small one like this, or a small Z palette, and you go ahead and you take out the shades that you need and pop them in here and go. Like that's literally what I do, which I don't even do because I have a lot of other eyeshadows I don't need to grab. I don't need to take these with me. Yeah, and so that's what I use because look, I have a lot of space. I have space for about 100 more in this one palette. It's huge, but it works, and they fit in my drawer nicely. And I sort these by shade because it's so many of them. Can you imagine just having this randomly in this palette, 154 colors that you have to look at, and there's no rhyme or reason to them? I think that's definitely, this is something that has to be organized in this way. And this is how it works for me. I can open up one. And if I'm using my Coastal Scents shadows, I usually have both of them open at the same time because I'm going from the neutrals to the colors or what have you. But it definitely works, and I really enjoy Coastal Scents Hot Pots, if you guys can tell. But can you imagine this split up between 5 and 6 palettes in my drawer instead of opening up, what is this, 154? So instead of opening up about 5 of the palettes, I can just open up 1 and see everything that I have, and that's what it is. Before I made these, I had like 5 of these, and each one had a different color in it, and it was a lot. So yeah, these are my and now answer a question that you guys might have. I am that person where if, let's say, I get a new blue or 2 new blue, I will bump everything down, move something over to fit those two blue in. I do. It's fun for me. It's fine. But I'll wait until I get a lot. When I buy Coastal Scent Top Pots, I do purchase them in bulk. Like at the 99-cent sale, I might get about 20 or 30 at a time. And so it's a lot more feasible to move all those in one swoop than to sit here and every time I get a new one, which I don't like doing one by one, but I would. Yeah, and so that is that. So there you go, guys. That is my storage and rhyme and reason and how I store all my magnetic shadows. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, stay tuned for the next episode in this series. I'm really excited about it. If you have any questions or you have any requests, if you want to know how my mind ticks when I'm storing anything else, leave it down below. It might already be on my list. If it's not, you can do that one too. I love you all, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!